Welcome back to the Hitting the Turnbuckle podcast. We're doing another collaboration this evening, and you may notice that this is the first collaboration that my co-host from NWA, Miss Fiona Lochran, is on. Evening, Fee.
Hello, you're right.
I've braced the weather. We've had storms. Well, we haven't actually had a storm, but we've had I can't remember what they called it this year, but it's a storm beginning with B at the moment. I called it Storm Bitch earlier on when I was driving to work this morning, but it actually isn't Storm Bitch. But anyway, joining us today, so we're going to do a bit of an NWA collaboration. As we all know, we love NWA on this channel. We've interviewed a whole host of the talent. Now we've got someone over from America. It's quite early over there. I believe it's coming up to just gone 11 o'clock into lunchtime, but it's from the Alliance blog. It is Jason. How are you, sir?
What is going on? Thanks for having me on.
No,
It's
thanks.
so good to see you.
It's
Jay's
good to
my
see you too.
pal. I've known Jay for ages.
We actually had a nice, I was gonna say dinner, but it was like at midnight, I think. Out what city
In
were we
Perth.
in? Pear, that's right. And it was really cool to see Fiona. We've hung out before at events. Of course, Fee's known for crossing that little ocean over there to come check out the NWA in the US. And I got to return the favor and get to hang out with Fee in Scotland. She got to meet my wife. They became best friends. I felt left out of the conversation, and my daughters harassed her the whole time. But I think we had a good night, and it
We
was
had a fabulous time. So I'm so glad you're here. I'm
Yeah,
excited for
I'm
this.
happy to be here.
we're
Any
glad.
time Fee asks me to do something, almost 100% yes.
That's
Oh.
good to hear. While we're here, because obviously I'm the odd one out today, guys, because you can see Jason's got his NWA Hard Times top on, followed by his Alliance blog hat, which we'll get into. And Fee is taking a risk because you've got the Baron.
I am repping the Baron today.
You are repping the Baron, no claws needed at the moment. And yeah, exactly that, Jason. No claws needed at the moment. But Jason, look, I suppose, when did your love of NWA begin, really? Because I've never spoken to you about this. So when did it really start for you?
So it's this is a long story. So tell me to wrap it up if I go too long. But
You're fine.
I'm a kid of the 80s. I grew up watching pro wrestling here in Southern California. And I missed the NWA Hollywood time. They had already closed down by the time I was getting into watching wrestling. So for me, it was, Vince McMahon. It was the WWF, and their syndication programming was available, on our regular television channels. We were one of the first families in my neighborhood to get cable, which meant that we got Superstation TBS, which means all of a sudden what I thought wrestling was, with Hulk Hogan and the Iron Sheik and Nikolai Volkov and Hillbilly Jim, all of a sudden now I've got Ric Flair, Arn Anderson, Tully Blanchard, the Four Horsemen, the LOD, or I guess, sorry, Road Warriors, and the Rock and Roll Express. So I immediately fell in love with what they were doing in the NWA because those characters felt more real, where the WWF felt very cartoonish. And so I followed the NWA until I thought at the time that they became WCW and that the NWA went away. And so I'd always had this affinity for that brand. I was still a WWE fan, WWF fan for, growing up with it, but I believed that WCW was the NWA, and I followed both brands very close. It wasn't until about 1995 I started watching the UFC. It was huge.
Mm.
And who do I see coming down to the octagon but Dan the Beast Severn? And he's holding a relic from my past, an absolute gemstone of the 10 pounds of gold, the NWA World's Heavyweight Championship, a belt that
Best
is
belt in the
synonymous.
world.
Uh, it it's so it's so beautiful in its simplicity. And like I had AWA Remco figures. I don't know if they had those in the UK, but they didn't have an AWA belt. They had like a makeshift NWA World title. It came with all of them. And so like I fell in love with the NWA all over again. And as soon as I saw Dan Severn with that 10 pounds of gold, I started researching, started reading about it. The internet was still very much in its infancy, so it was kind of hard to find out what was going on. But you start learning about things, and you're like, oh, the NWA and WCW weren't one thing. The WCW was part of the NWA. Okay, didn't know that. And you find out that there's lots of NWA promotions, like in Portland, Oregon, and Dallas, Texas, and Florida, and there was all these promotions that were still existing. And I started diving into it, and then of course, like a lot of people, when there was a WWF invasion, the NWA invasion into the WWF during the Monday Night Wars, and you had a very limp, limp-wristed NWA, which was like, the Rock and Roll Express, who were a lot older at this time. Um, you had JBL, they were calling them Bradshaw, Jeff Jarrett with the NWA North American title, a title that I absolutely fell in love with. And I said, wow, this is the company that I want to watch. How do I watch more of this? And you'd find out about Steve Corino and Sabu, and then the internet started blowing up more, so you could follow these things. You could follow the promotions, and like Sabu, when he was NWA World Heavyweight Champion, he was also holding the XPW World Heavyweight Champion, which was quite the dichotomy for pro wrestling. You have the deathmatch guy holding the historically traditional wrestling championship belt. At the same time, it was very weird to me, but also super exciting. And then Steve Corino holding the 10 pounds of gold. We even had in the early 2000s, we had a promotion out here in Southern California called UPW, Ultimate Pro Wrestling,
Yeah.
and they worked as a farm system for the WWE. It was kind of like it was a developmental, but not quite like OVW or some of the other promotions that were associated with the WWE at the past. And Shinya Hashimoto, as NWA World Champion, came to UPW with the belt and like started calling out the entire roster, saying like who's gonna take the belt off him. And Samoa Joe, who is my all-time favorite wrestler, stood right toe to toe with Hashimoto and told him he'd take the title off of him. That match never happened, but it got me reinvigorated back into the NWA. And again, following the story from Corino to Hashimoto, Hashimoto to Severin, and of course when TNA exploded on the scene, they were licensing the NWA Championship. So it was at that point it was very easy to kind of keep up with it. And in about 2006, I started blogging about the NWA. I write about it on SoCal Uncensored, which is a regional website here, one of the biggest wrestling websites, longest lasting wrestling websites in the United States. And then I started my own thing, and I was like, there's so much stuff happening in the NWA. There needs to be one source, one place where everyone could find everything. And so I started blogging about the NWA, and and then at that point, YouTube had become a thing, so you could actually watch some of these matches. You could actually keep up with the NWA. And then when TNA and the NWA ended their 5-year relationship, the NWA World Titles went back to the NWA, and that's when I really got super invested because now the world title was in my backyard. Dave Marquez, who used to be one of the top NWA promoters at the time, was literally running events all over the United States, California, Arizona, Florida, Texas, even events like in Idaho and more obscure places. And they even brought the NWA to Australia. And so having these big time events with big wrestling names and then having the world's heavyweight championship, that 10 pounds of gold, getting to see it like up close and personal, just it was awesome. So the journey has been long but very fruitful, and the NWA has always had my heart since even being a young child.
Interesting. Fee, I never know your story behind it. I know that obviously you watch, we talk about it all the time, how I got into it through you, but when did you start this in the NWA?
So, like, I knew of it, but over here growing up, getting access to
Yeah.
it was nigh on impossible. So, it was all really just WWF over here.
Yeah.
But you would see bits in the magazines and things like that, and like NWA Champ, Ric Flair, or whatever. But really, my kind of love for it was with the modern era when Billy took over. And this is when I really got into it. When Billy took over, and the Lightning One era kind of started. And I was working with Pat Patterson at the time, on a media con down in Manchester. And Nick Aldis was there. Now I've known Nick for a long, long time, but he was actually the world champion, the NWA world champion at that point, and he was there with Dave Lagana. So it was really, really nice to catch up with Nick and Dave, who I only met for the first time there. But they had started talking to me about the plans for this new show, Power, that was going to be coming on. Straw, like it's going to be available on YouTube. Like, if you like this sort of thing, you should totally check it out. And I literally watched the first episode and was totally hooked. Like, the studio vibe, Marquez was there, like, Cornette was there at the time as well. And that very, very first episode, I was like, okay, this is my jam. This is what I'm here for.
Yeah, definitely. What caught me, apart from you watching it, sorry, Jason, what caught me from you watching it was, and I've said this every time we've interviewed the guys, the everything from like the old school that I love. The finish is a finish. If someone hits it, it's game over. There's no sort of 35 false finishes. You have to hit your finishes so many times. When Damage hits the drop kick, that match is over. I love that. I love the fact the old-fashioned moves win it as well. Like we saw an elbow. I think there's an elbow drop someone hit on an episode of Power that we watched before Fee. I love that, and I love the fact that they bring it into the 2025 vibe as well. So it's kind of like we mentioned it to Kratos yesterday. Variety was the word that we use, where it's you've got that old school era vibe with the finish is a finish, but you've got the 2025 characters that bring it all together. And Jason, that for me is the best form. How would you describe the NWA now?
Uh, um,
I'm
I
looking forward to this
probably
answer.
I'm gonna try to be diplomatic about this. So what do I love about the NWA currently is, of course, that it pays homage to the history and the legacy and the tradition of the National Wrestling Alliance. Of course, I mean this title belt, you know, came to prominence in the 70s and the 80s. And but the legacy of the NWA dates back to 1948. We're talking 77 plus years of pro wrestling. The only organization that's been around longer is CMLL with 92 years, which that's amazing too. But what I love about today's NWA is the talent, right?
Yeah.
They have some of the best guys in pro wrestling, and I wish that there was a bigger magnifying glass to amplify the talent of the NWA, because I don't feel like, as it stands, Roku and the YouTube channel, I don't feel like that's enough to
Mm-mm.
give these stars the treatment that they deserve. Um, Tom Latimer is a guy who 100% passes the poster test for me. And by that, I mean, you could put his face on any wrestling promotion in the world, and he either is the best looking dude on the poster or one, fits right in with everybody else. He's got a great look. He's got great skill set. When he's in the ring, you can believe that you're watching a top class world wrestler. Um, Thrillbilly Silas Mason. There is not a better promo guy in the
Mm-mm.
world right now than Thrillbilly Silas Mason, and he can talk you into a seat. And that's like that's the point of a promo. You get asses in seats. I
Yeah.
don't think there's anybody better at it right now than Thrillbilly Silas Mason. He's so charismatic. Dude's been working on his look too. I don't know if you
Yeah.
guys see the
Yeah.
I
Instagram
just seen
photos.
his latest Instagram post and I was like, holy shit, like he's chiseled now.
I'm a happily married man, but good Lord, he's a good looking. Um, and then like there's the ties to the past too. Like Fiona's wearing the Baron von Storm shirt.
Mm.
Baron, our good pal Tim, he's an NWA world champion from before the Billy Corgan era. He
Yeah.
he was the ambassador of the NWA. He brought the 10 pounds of gold to the Lightning One era. And I love the fact that it pays homage to him. The late Jack Stain, somebody I consider a friend, he was a former NWA World Champion. He was literally, when they call him the Dane event, like I feel that's underselling it. He was the NWA, and he got to be a part of this. So they honored some of that legacy. Now I wish they would do more of it, right? Like occasionally they'll name drop Steve Corino or Adam Pearce or AJ Styles. They love to live with that Ric Flair, Dusty Rhodes. But I mean, there's so many guys from the past that I wish they would recognize and honor. I feel like they do a disservice when it comes to that. And and then like you guys just interviewed Kratos. What a phenomenal wrestler. He
Yeah.
combines power and speed. Like for a guy that size, he moves so effortlessly in the ring. They have a solid tag team wrestlers. The women are exciting to watch. Trevor Murdoch and Mike Knox. Are you kidding me? That is what tag team wrestling looks like to me. And
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
like you've got such great talent And again, there's things I absolutely love about the NWA, and I'm very critical about some of the things that I don't like about the NWA. But I'll never tell you that the talent is the problem. They have some of the best wrestlers in the world, and I'm glad that we get to see that every week.
Yeah, me too. I love it. The match this week that really stood out for you, we mentioned it on the review, AT versus Rich Swann to kick off 77 was
Like,
an incredible contest, wasn't it?
what a great match to run in a series from their biggest show of the year and to kick it off with the two of them in the ring to get new viewers in who are potentially just tuning in for the first time, who are maybe casual wrestling fans. I just thought that was a perfect start to this new season.
Yes, I'll be honest, I haven't watched it yet. Today's usually the day that I watch it, so don't worry, I already know the results. But um, I know that Alex Taylor is again somebody I didn't mention, but 100%. Like we got to watch his maturation process. Guys like him and Mims, and
So underrated.
yeah, a
So
couple of
underrated.
even Kerry Morton. Like even though he's a multi-generational wrestler, like these guys are really talented, and we've got to see them kind of grow up a little bit in the last 5 years. And a guy like Alex Taylor, who came in as kind of they put him in a tag team meant to be an imbecile tag team,
Yeah.
and what he's been able to become, he's a great wrestler, and he's really like starting to come into his own on the promos. He's got a great look. I mean, I feel like that guy might be the next guy to take that next leap. Like he might be the guy that gets signed next. I wouldn't be surprised if that happens. And then being a landing place for Rich Swann and some of these other guys, like at the Saw Win Part 3, we saw Matt Cardona make his return. Shotzi Blackheart showed up. We've had the Colognes as of recent as a 77 anniversary show. I mean, we're seeing an influx of talent of top tier names. It's not just the guys that Billy discovered. We're getting some good, fundamentally sound pro wrestlers, and then they are mixing in some talent that have been undiscovered before. Alex Taylor, I never heard of Alex Taylor's name before the NWA,
No.
nor did I ever hear of Billy Silas Mason. But now we're seeing like guys like Dante Casanova or Fenrir or
Yeah,
there's a lot of guys that are coming up, and I'm like, yep, this is what the NWA should be. Let's see these guys take advantage of the top talent that you get. If Trevor Murdoch is available, use them. Mike Knox available, use them. But let's start building up some guys from the unknown and start building up this company in a way that we could showcase the best talent that's out there.
definitely. Brandon Barrett is another one. I like Brandon.
Yes.
Great, great worker. And Slade is if that isn't a world champion in the making, I don't know what is.
Slade is incredible, and I don't have enough nice things to say about Slade. At some point, he might come onto my podcast, but Slade is a phenomenal talent. And again, the pairing of him and Mondo, like I was surprised because at the Crockett Cup, the TV's behind
Yeah.
the actual live
So
event, so
far behind.
it
That's my
frustrates.
biggest gripe. My
Yeah,
biggest gripe's the TV.
but when we were there, I was like, well, how's this gonna work? Mondo and Slade, but holy crap, like I was getting Steiner vibes all day, and I love the pairing. And now they're not even working as a tag team. But I mean, they are, but they aren't.
Yeah,
But I'm very excited to see what Slade has. They're putting him towards the junior heavyweight division, which I'm sure he genuinely is a junior heavyweight, but he is so much bigger and stronger than those guys in that division. He's gonna stick out like a sore thumb. I don't think he'll be in the junior heavyweight division for very long.
no.
No, I think you, Adam, had him future world's champ, did you not, at one point?
I could.
Yeah, he was on there. I mean, I think he should be. I think he should be in there. One guy that we spoke about briefly, and Fee, I asked you this question last week, and you hadn't budged on your answer, which was, and I said, do you think that Kerry Morton, because we were talking about the weight, Kerry Morton looked like he had beefed up a little bit. He's got Hammerstone this week, obviously on the Roku at the time of recording. And I mentioned to Fee, do you see Kerry Morton as NWA World Heavyweight Champion? I've asked her this twice, about a year and a half ago, and she said no. And I asked her last week, and she still said no. Where do you sit on that? Do you see Kerry Morton as NWA champion, or is Kerry? Is he just Fee? It wasn't. Sorry, before you ask Jason, Fee, was it like the look? You just don't see him, and you don't think he's
I
got that
just,
tough?
no, I don't know. Like, he's good, but I think when I envisage the NWA World's Champion, maybe it is an appearance thing that's my stumbling block. Because when I envisage the NWA World's Champion, I envisage somebody like Tom or like Dusty, and he just doesn't embody that for me. And I'm not saying that he's not good enough to do it, but personally, I just can't envisage him with that belt.
Mm. What
It
do you
I
think?
just,
think
I
I
don't
think for
know.
me the biggest problem is he hasn't been leveraged
Mm.
as a champion. Like he held the junior heavyweight title, and once he lost the title, he announced that he was graduating from that division. And I look at him and I feel like there's potential there. Like in the ring, I don't have any complaints about his in-ring ability. I do think that and I, as somebody who is not have a perfect body, I can't speculate on how people look, but I think he needs to spend a little bit more time in the gym. I know he's still young, he's still developing, he's still growing. Um, I see some of the characteristics that would work as a world champion, but the NWA has done absolutely no favors to him in terms of how they book him and how they've pushed him. Like he hasn't even had a shot at the TV title or the national title.
Yeah.
How could I look at him as a world champion when he can't even wrestle for the lower tier titles? And
Yeah.
they have the U.S. tag team titles currently,
Mhm.
but these are belts that Billy has even explained on air that these are not power titles, these are territory titles, which even that is a little wonky on itself. But we don't see U.S. tag team title matches on power, so we don't see a lot of Kerry Morton in high profile matches. We don't see a lot of Kerry Morton being pushed as a potential future world champion. I'm not saying that he couldn't be. I'm just saying if he's going to, maybe he should go away for a while and come back with a different look and hopefully a push to go with it.
Yeah, I think we'll see what happens. You mentioned the territories. I wanted to get to that fee. We've had some great fun looking at watching the territories Exodus Pro, and we watch JCP. Obviously, we don't review JCP, but we watch on YouTube KFW. There's the proving. I mean, there's that kind of proving ground right there. And the NWA do the right things. We've seen more and more talent come through. The Holy Grail, Smooth and CeeLo were a couple of the recent ones. The Slime Balls have come up, and they're my second favorite tag team behind the Immortals, for obvious reasons. But we see that there, and there's such a great platform. And if you actually get to watch these shows, some of the talent on those forgot the word territory shows, you could easily envisage on NWA Power at any point.
See, like again, what made the NWA so special and what made it like I really fell in love with it is because there wasn't just one promotion, right? When you go to a WWE show, it's a WWE show.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
doesn't matter if it's happening in Massachusetts or if it's happening in London or if it's happening in California. It's the WWE. You might have a SmackDown or Raw show, but it's still WWE. The independents, if you go to any kind of independent wrestling show, there is good wrestling. Every weekend there's great wrestling happening. But the territories are connected to the NWA. And although it's still there's a lot of debate on what benefits who and who's benefiting from what. But the idea that the NWA was a singular promotion as opposed to a co-op with many territories, I hated it. I hated when they when Bruce Tharp galvanized the National Wrestling Alliance into one entity, and then Billy bought that one entity, and then for the first couple of years of his NWA, there was just his promotion. I felt like that was that was short-sighted, and I felt like you missed out on a lot of opportunities. When I see Joe Kazana promotions, to me, that's what the NWA should be. Like that is the NWA at its core. You don't need the fog machine, you don't need the strobe lights. You need a high school gym,
Yeah.
best wrestlers you can find, a local crowd who's going to support your show. And to me, that's the NWA. And when they are able to hit that at its best, that's when to me the NWA is perfect.
Hmm.
And and so when I watch Joe Kazana promotions, that makes me nostalgic for the NWA that I fell in love with back, 2006 all the way up till Billy Corgan buying it in 2017. And I think the territories are a great idea. I don't know about the execution though.
Mhm.
Um, I know that Brian Idol has a big hand in the territory system. Like I believe he's the one that brought Albuquerque, Duke
Yeah.
City into the NWA. Um, I wish if Billy ever wanted to pay me for my ideas, I'd be happy to give them to them. But like we the 10 pounds of gold YouTube series was such a fun time for the NWA, and a lot
So
of
good.
people miss that. And with all due respect, Jeremiah Plunkett, who I absolutely adore as a wrestler, he is the NWA Mid-American Champion.
Yeah.
I feel like the NWA would have a really beneficial use of that Mid-American Championship as basically a tour guide to the territories.
Hmm.
And the person to me that should be that guy is Brian Idol.
Yeah.
I know he's the TV champion right now, and I think that's a bad play. I think there's other people that would benefit from that title more than him. And the fact that he's on the road so much with the NWA, being a Mid-American champion and a YouTube series following him, and that title going territory to territory, introducing, power fans to that territory audience, I think would be such a great idea because we see them, if you love the NWA, you're going to consume as much of the content as you can.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But if you give me short doses that I could easily digest, a 10-15 minute web episode of just this title and who Brian Idol is and where he's going this week, and make me like Brian Idol the same way that Dave Lagana made me fall in love with Tim Storm, I think that would be a brilliant strategy. And all along the way, you're introducing all these future NWA Power superstars. If we had a big time matchup with Dante Casanova representing Exodus Pro versus, and this is just me booking, but Brian Idol and that NWA Mid American Championship, and you have a YouTube clips showing it, getting you excited about it, that would be awesome. And it'd be a great way to introduce the Power audience to Dante Casanova, have him sit down and do an interview and get the people to know him. And then, at the same time, go to Albuquerque, introduce me to the top guys of Albuquerque. I don't know anybody in Duke City wrestling but Brian Idol and Natalia Markova. And I know very few people in WLW. I know that
Yeah.
they have a product that's available to me, but we're all human beings too. I don't know how many hours you guys dedicate to watching pro wrestling, but
Too many.
I'm kind of maxed out. I don't think I could add another hour-long YouTube show. So I
Yeah.
feel like small little web episodes would be a great idea to get the NWA fans on board, and then also introduce us to your future members of Power.
Yeah, definitely
Just you
so.
talking about Duke City there, I'm very much in the same boat. I couldn't tell you anything about Duke City. I feel like NWA haven't really done much to promote them as a territory. They've not said much or done anything, whereas they're pushing Exodus, they're pushing KFW, they're pushing JCP, they've been pushing TSW as well and Dog Pound, but I almost feel like Duke City's just been kind of left and they've been in the system for a good couple of months now. I
Yeah,
can't
and
remember when they joined, but it's been a good few months now. But it's been very, very quiet. But I really like your idea of doing something like that to introduce the fans to the territories and folk around them. I think that's a great shout.
and the thing about it too, when we talk about Duke City, and I know over here in the States, it's like I couldn't explain geography to you guys for your country, and the UK and London and Scotland and all that. I couldn't try to explain that at all. But Albuquerque isn't that far from Texas.
No, it's not.
And
I
and
did look
if
at
you
driving it.
and you could create a circuit right there with those three promotions where you
Hmm.
have that Texas champion, boom, boom, boom. And that's the thing, like we look back what the NWA used to do, because we don't need to reinvent the wheel. We can copy from the blueprints that were established before us.
Yeah.
You know, Jim Crockett Promotions, NWA, Georgia Championship Wrestling, the Mid-Atlantic territories. You could copy that formula, create a circuit that highlights those wrestlers. There is no reason why Duke City talent shouldn't be appearing on NWA Texas and vice versa. Because I get like maybe Duke City talent isn't quite there yet, but then bring in some of the guys from Texas and help cross pollinate here. That I think the biggest misnomer on Power is you've got Crossfire and Joe Kazana Promotions fighting each other, but
Mhm.
like we're we're family. Like this should be working together. Like there shouldn't be any animosity because your goal is what? To promote the NWA, to make the
Yeah.
NWA the best wrestling out there. So there shouldn't be like I think the storytelling of and Tommy, Joe and Tommy being angry at each other is silly. Like they should be working together. Like, okay, how can we bring more of our guys to power? That should be the show, you know. But again, that's my opinion, and nobody asked for that. But yeah, I feel like Duke City gets neglected. I feel like WLW gets neglected because again they're all the way in St. Louis. But again, make a circuit with Chicago. Chicago and
Yeah.
St. Louis are not that far apart. I say St. Louis, but I just mean like Troy, Missouri. These are driving distances. Crossfire and in KFW, KFW and Joe Kazana Promotions right there in Tennessee. That's easy. Chicago and St. Louis or Troy, not that far apart. Texas, be it TSW, Dog Pound, and even Duke City, it wouldn't be that hard to work together and foster that relationship.
Yeah, definitely.
I
So
hope
I
you
know.
get royalties if this all comes to fruition.
I won't, but you know what? I'd be happy to forego royalties if they actually did something that made sense.
I know Manny Lemons from Duke City.
Yeah,
He beat Brian Idol for the Route 66 championship at the last show. I interviewed him literally the day of the show. That's how I remember Manny Lemons for sure. He was a good kid. He was a good cat, so to speak.
he's been around for a
Manny.
while.
Yeah, he has. Yeah, he actually has, and we've had the Son of Harley race, of course, on as well from WLW right before one of their shows recently. So that was good. But I do like the territories. Yeah, I do agree. I wish they would do some more stuff together, and I wish it was a bit more. I know in America, as you say, it's not far from a drive, but a lot of it is behind a paywall on TV. Whereas Exodus, majority of the time, use the NWA YouTube. Joe Kazana's got his own YouTube. I wish they would utilize that a bit more for people like myself. It's a bit selfish, but the international fans, a bit like myself and Fee, that would actually love to be able to watch that weekly.
Oh, I agree 100%. And one of the worst things that I feel like happened to the NWA is they had a lot of positive momentum when they were on YouTube. Then
Hmm.
they announced the whole, hey, we're gonna go to CW. And on the surface, hey, that sounds awesome, right? But like neglecting fans of the UK, neglecting the Canadian audience. I don't know how many fans they have in Mexico, but they had just done work in Mexico City. The World is a Vampire tour. They
That's
worked with
right. Yeah, I
AAA,
forgot about
Hmm.
and it didn't do it. There's no follow up to that, and I feel like that was taking the content and moving it to a an unapproachable platform for you guys was a mistake. And knowing that, hey, we're going to put this on a platform that's not available to our international audience, there should have always been a plan to bring it to international audience. I mean, I know MLW was on beIN Sports forever. There's always Pluto. There's so many different platforms that they could have gone if you absolutely don't want to be on YouTube because of the stigma or that because everyone's on YouTube. There
Yeah.
were other ways to do it that would have made sense for an international fan base. I mean, geez, like all kidding aside, one of my best friends in the whole wide world, Tim Wood from the Alliance North, he drove from Toronto to St. Louis to watch the NWA. And Fee flew from, Scotland all the way to Nashville for the NWA. And if there's that kind of fan base that's supporting your product, like why in the world would you turn a blind eye to them? Like we live we're all content creators here, so we could
Yeah.
talk about content creation. We are all looking for eyeballs. We need all the eyeballs. I want as many eyeballs as I can get, and I believe that Billy deals in eyeballs. I don't think he's concerned about cash money. I think he wants attention on his product. So it was never made sense to me why you would take this product that was widely available with a huge international following and then just ignore it. Like to me, that was just such bad business, such short-sightedness. And I 100% agree. Whatever the NWA does going forward, they should keep that in mind, because I just think it's dumb not to.
I'm not going to comment on that because you both know my feelings on that, and I was very, very vocal about it at the time. And even now, they've moved from CW onto Roku, which is great streaming, but I still can't access it at the best of times over here. I still need to get a VPN to watch it over here, and even then it doesn't always work. So it's really, really frustrating. And I know I'm not the only one struggling with it. I mean, Adam manages to watch it fine,
Mm.
but that's a lot of people you're alienating and a lot of people you're forcing to go and look for alternatives. And by
And
the
it's not,
time by the time maybe you're back, they'll be so invested in the alternative that they don't care. And that's sad because like we said at the start, or like you said at the start, the talent deserves to have eyes on them.
yeah. And I don't mean to derail the show, but like also, the something similar happened during COVID, right? Like the NWA took a knee, was a responsible business decision because during
Mhm.
COVID, nobody knew how serious it was. Nobody knew how long this was going to last. You know, the first expectation was it's going to be a month or two, and then we'd be back to business. That's not what happened. And literally by taking the knee, which was again a smart business decision and it was a responsible decision, the momentum that they had built, like 2019 was the peak NWA. Like that was peak Billy
That, yeah.
Corgan NWA. And for them to have to take a knee, we missed out on Crockett Cup. We missed out on potential title changes. In fact, if it wasn't for Dave Marquez's United Wrestling Network and their primetime live series, the whole NWA would have been dormant for all of 2020. And I was fortunate enough to be at that first taping. It didn't go well, but you had Nick Aldis defend the title against Mike Bennett. You had later they would have Thunder Rosa and Serena Deeb, or Thunder Rosa and Priscilla Kelly. You had Trevor Murdoch win the national title from Aaron Stevens. You had Aaron Stevens and Kratos win the tag titles from Eli Drake and James Storm. Like if United Wrestling Network didn't do anything, all those matches would have never happened, and all those titles would have still been hanging in limbo for over a year. And again, that was a responsible business decision. It was smart that Billy didn't put any of his talent at risk. That was good, but they lost so much momentum from that. And then I feel like again, you can't afford to give up any more eyeballs. You lost
Yeah.
enough during COVID, moving to CW, taking all the content off of Triller. I think that was a black eye. And then
I
and then
know.
because I mean I was paying for those pay-per-views and now I don't
Yeah.
even have access to them.
I don't, yeah, and some of them were so good as well. I would like I'll not maybe potentially sit and watch an entire pay-per-view, but there'll be matches on some of them that I just want to go back and rewatch a single match or two matches from a whole pay-per-view. I was really, really sad that that got taken off, and I'm sad that the first couple of seasons of Power aren't available anymore either. Adam's not had the pleasure of seeing them, so Adam never
No.
saw the first couple of seasons of Power. He missed all of that. Like
Yeah.
honestly, you missed so much. You missed like Scott Steiner. You
Yeah.
missed like I'm so sad you haven't seen it, but you
You
can't
missed the
find it
question mark.
anywhere.
You missed the question mark, and you missed like when Trevor Murdoch debuted for the NWA, like he was basically done. Like they
Mm.
brought him in to be a coach. He was going to be
Yeah.
like an agent coach, and they're like, "Hey, man." And the plan always was to try to get him back into the ring. Him and David had a relationship going back to their days in WLW. David
Mm.
Lagana was supporting him, and they're like, "Hey, man, we just come and wrestle one match, and then you could be an agent for us." And he did such a good job, and the fans got behind him quick. And the whole question mark thing, like that was such a fun. My co-hosts on my podcast hate the question mark. They weren't big fans of Joe Cephas, but being there and seeing that happen organically and
Yeah.
watching the crowd react to that, like it wasn't like forced. This wasn't like, hey, cheer for this. Hey, everybody, we're gonna bring out a new character. Cheer for him. No, he came out and he was wrestling Ricky Starks, who was a huge babyface at the time, and the crowd flip flopped right on him. Nope, we're gonna cheer for this guy because he's crazy. And they got so into that question mark, and it was like that to me again, that peak season of Power, that first season where they had all the adulations from the wrestling community. They need to go back to that.
Yeah.
um but it was such a good time, and I am sorry, Adam, that you didn't get to see that because you did miss out on some good stuff.
I know. I see
Maybe
some
one day
clips.
it'll come back. I like that is one of my hopes for you that one day you get to see that first season and then
Yeah.
you'll see why I fell in love with it,
Oh,
basically.
I have seen why, but I will understand it more. I mean, I see when Eli Drake was on there at LA Knight. Saw one
Shoes
of
of
the.
a champion.
Yeah, there we go. I've
Best
seen,
promo ever. It's like
I've,
my favorite, one of my favorite promos of all time.
I've seen a few
Yeah,
clips like that, which I want to see. But yeah, hopefully one day I'll have that privilege and I'll be able to see NWA from season one, which would be good for me. And Ricky Starks and people like who actually who have enjoyed watching over the last 6 years or years anyway, would be even better to see him come up. When you see him sort of come up in like that, would be
Thunder
amazing.
Rosa too. Like, that was
Yeah.
another one that caught me off guard because I was there and I didn't know Thunder Rosa was going to be there. And she was a really hot commodity at that point. Like she had
Mm.
already done her Lucha Underground stuff
Yeah.
and she'd been wrestling for Stardom and she was well known. I'm sorry, maybe not Stardom. I think it was TJPW, Tokyo Joshi Pro Wrestling. So her name was already out there. And then she showed up on the scene with Melina, and you're like, what? What is going on? And then not only was she presented as a badass, but she actually was a
She
badass. She came in
was.
there and you're like, yep, this is good. Like, and that was what was so again iconic about that time frame is that somebody came in and you're like, holy crap, I know that it's been much aligned since, but when Marty Scurll showed up, like at the time, he was one of the hot commodities in ROH, and people
Mm.
really did like that guy when he came in, and then he brought in, Brody and PCO. It was like, what the hell?
Yeah.
The whole ROH crossover stuff was pretty fun.
Mm. Yeah.
Oh, good
What
times. They were
good
good
time.
times.
Good times indeed. Before we start wrapping up, Jason, tell us about the Alliance blog. Tell us about the podcast. Tell us all about that. So I'm intrigued to hear more.
Man, so again, I kind of mentioned this a little bit earlier.
Mm.
In 2006, I was so enamored with what my friend David Marquez was doing out here in Southern California. He was kind of making his own mini NWA out here where he was the promoter of record through New Japan Pro Wrestling. He was Antonio Inoki's proxy. And so he was the guy taking care of the NWA out here. And I think going back to 2004, he was promoting events called New Japan USA.
Mm.
Like I got to see some pretty amazing stuff, like Bryan Danielson versus Ultimo Dragon. It's one of my favorite matches of all time. Watching Samoa Joe versus Togi Makabe was really amazing. That was for an ROH title. They did this thing, this relationship with New Japan, and then it ended pretty abruptly. And they're like, oh man, that was such a good time. I wish that was still around. Then he started promoting events as the NWA. And we were getting guys like Chad Collier, Aaron Aguilera, and these might not be big household names, but back then these were pretty
Mm.
big names on the independents, and T.J. Perkins and Rocky Romero, Ricky Reyes, uh, Carl the Machine Gun Anderson, and you had these big names, Scrap Iron Adam Pierce, and what they were doing was so cool because Dave would take those wrestlers and then they would do these live events all over the US. So they were doing shows in Las Vegas and Arizona. And we're talking like bigger venues than what the NWA is in right now. And it was a mix between Lucha Libre, which I absolutely love, and then these Southern California, really wasn't just SoCal, it was wrestlers from all across the NWA. So we would have, talents from Virginia, talents from the East Coast, talents from Florida, and they would be putting these out on DVDs through Big Vision Entertainment. So this was a lot of fun. I'm getting way off tack, but I'm bringing it back now. So I thought, like, I know I'm not the only one that's enjoying this stuff, and this is what's happening in California, but what's happening everywhere else? There was a promotion called NWA Bluegrass that routinely was using Al Snow and Chance Prophet, the NWA national champion. There was a promotion, the British Commonwealth title, the belt that you'll see right here behind me, represented the NWA Hammerlock, which was a
Yeah.
UK-based promotion,
Mhm.
and they worked with the promotion also in like in Canada. And then they also worked with NWA Ireland. And so like that's where we got Finn Balor, Fergal Devitt back in the day. And then Drew Onyx and all these guys. So there's all this cool stuff happening, but you couldn't find it. This is back in 2007. The internet was still growing and there wasn't a ton of wrestling coverage. So I decided I would be the one to do it. So I had a job that afforded me the opportunity to stare at a computer all day and take notes and then write up results and post interviews and my first big interview was with Carl Anderson back when he was a nobody, and Joey
Nice.
Ryan and Drew Onyx and all these guys who I had been kind of watching because again the YouTube wasn't real big then yet either, so even seeing matches were difficult.
Hmm.
But I just started becoming the voice for NWA fans. In fact, the original name of the site was the NWA fan site. It's very creative.
Very original.
Yeah, well, and then someone told me something. They said, "Hey, not that the NWA is litigious, but if you ever say something that they don't like, they might hold that against you." And I'm like, "It's a good point." So I changed the name to the Alliance, and because at that time, of course, the Alliance because it's the National Wrestling Alliance, but also what kind of reinvigorated me to becoming a fan of the NWA again was the NWA Alliance that they had formed in 1999, 98 with WWE, the whole invasion. And then they ran back an invasion a couple years later when WCW and ECW invaded. And that was kind of in my head too, because I always called them the Alliance. So like, yeah, let's go. The Alliance. That works for me. Alliance-wrestling.com. So again, I've been documenting the history of the NWA. I used to be a lot more active than I am in terms of writing, but the website, again, we used to have thousands of hits every day because we were the unified source of NWA information. And we started a podcast. I started a podcast in like 2007. We just hit 18 years.
Wow.
And the first podcast was on Blog Talk Radio, and I literally was reading a script that I wrote, and it was the most awful podcast. There's somewhere it's still around. I have it on file somewhere. I would be embarrassed to play it right now, but like that was the start of all of this. And I started doing it every 2 weeks. And we would interview all of the talent across the NWA from Texas, the NWA Southwest Territories, NWA East, NWA. We were the NWA podcast of record, like I'm so happy that you guys exist, and there have been other podcasts and uh, blogs and stuff about the NWA, and I love that because it's always been about rising
Hmm.
ships. Everyone gets lifted up on the rising tide, and I've always wanted to see more coverage for the NWA. But there was a time when I was solo, and I was the only one talking about the NWA.
Yeah.
And I became a bit of an authority because, again, I was talking to the NWA executive director almost once a month. I had the promoters of the NWA reaching out to me saying, "Hey, can you put my guy on your show?" Like I didn't have to ask for guests. They were asked to be on my show. It was very, kind of inflating my ego a little bit. And so that's what I did. And I've been doing that ever since. It used to be every 2 weeks we would do a weekly podcast where we would interview talent. About 2016, I was kind of burnt out on pro wrestling. I took a step back, but then I hear Billy Corgan is interested in buying the NWA, and like, well, I thought I was out, and they dragged me back into it. And so we've been covering the NWA ever since, and in its entirety. So like, there's a Fight Nation in the UK that Billy Wood has become a friend, and
Yeah.
we used to talk. He's been on my podcast before. The old executive director Bob Trowbridge, Bruce Tharp was on it, which that was a fun episode. I felt like I was being grifted the entire time he was on, but we would talk to the wrestlers, we talk to the promoters, and just put a positive light on the NWA, and we still continue to do that now in 2025, where the majority of our show is now focused on recapping Power, talking about news and information for the NWA. But I also still do interviews, not just with NWA talent, but wrestling talent across the board. And every Tuesday, before Power airs here in the US, we do a live pregame. We call it the pre-party with J Cal. And we talk about the show, of course, whatever is going on with the NWA. I will occasionally get called Kevin Owens. That's okay.
I didn't want to say anything. I
It's
was going to
it's
message Fee when we was off air saying just like Kevin Owens.
no, and it's funny because like I'll also go on TikTok because there's a huge wrestling audience on
Yeah.
TikTok that I found, and I literally will write lists of people's names And it's like I'm like 6 sheets in now, 3 columns of just people. Anytime someone new calls me Kevin Owens, I'll write it down and just be like, hey, not Kevin Owens, I'm Jay Cal. We talk NWA here. But yeah, I've been doing that since 2025. We're on all social medias at the Alliance blog. We went with that name because that's the only one I could get on Twitter at the time. And so we just uniformed it all the way across the YouTube, the TikTok, the Instagram, the Facebook, Blue Sky, anywhere that you can go on social media, you can find the Alliance blog there.
Make sure you
Just
do.
before you start wrapping up, if that's okay,
Yes.
the Alliance blog for me has been like such an integral part of my kind of NWA journey. Um, Listening to the pre-show with you at stupid o'clock at night because of the time difference for me is it's been great. And I've met some incredible people and become really good friends with some wonderful, wonderful human beings through that. Like yourself,
Thank
like
you.
Marlon, like Scooby, like just and being able to go to shows and hang out with you and it's like this is pretty cool. You've got such a lovely wee community and like the Discord as well, the
Yeah.
server. There's always just in case Sam Retro and oh like I'm gonna leave people out and they're gonna be like you didn't mention me but you the guys know who they are. Honestly, they're such a good bunch.
In creating the community, it was important to me because I actually got called out by Gary Horn once. Gary Horn, who used to work for the NWA, but prior to that was also had his own podcast. This is Pro Wrestling when they focused on the NWA. And he says, instead of being such a gatekeeper, maybe you should focus more on community. And I was like, is that what I've become? Am I a gatekeeper? Am I making people feel dumb? Because that's not what I want. I want us all to enjoy it, right? Like this is something that I'm passionate about. I don't want to shove people away. I want to bring as many fans as I can get. That's the whole reason why I go live on TikTok is like, hey, I'll talk to you about Kevin Owens, but let's talk about NWA World Champion Silas Mason over here. Come on, let's talk about that. Um, so yeah, the building a community has been super rewarding, not just grabbing more eyeballs, but also like fulfilling. Like I got to meet a lot of good people. Tim from Canada, I would never have met him. Fee, I probably would have met Fee anyways because she's so bubbly and nice and friendly. But yeah, I wouldn't have met a lot of these people. Dave Scooby, Tim Wood, and Jeremy Miller all do the other Alliance Guys podcast. My co-host DKM and Jaden, again, I've met them in the last few years, but I've known these guys for like almost 20 years. And we've done this podcast for such a long time together, but I only met them in person just in the last few years. So I really feel like it's awesome. There's been a lot of people that have been a part of this alliance that we've lost along the way. And I've always regretted not being able to meet these people and actually get in, to shake their hand, give them a t-shirt, give them a hug and say, thanks for supporting us. And that's one of the great things about the NWA is I've afforded me this opportunity to meet people, to talk to people, and again create this community.
Yeah, it's one wonderful community. Fee always gives it good props when we talk about NWA and the kind of Discord and everything else. So I'm really, really glad that you're still doing it as well, which is the main thing. But while we wrap up now, and you've already posted your social, so make sure you go and check that out. But I have a question for both of you. We're all going to play it as well. Now, normally I give Fee only the last question of the day, and that just goes into chaos. And we ask you ask Kratos what his favorite dinosaur was, for example, yesterday. I'm not going to do that, unfortunately, on this one.
He said it's T-Rex.
He said it. He said, "Yeah, don't give it away. People are going to watch that when it comes on next week." No, I'm going to do an NWA question though. Fee, I'm going to give you the honor of going first though, and I want Fee.
Dick.
Yeah, I know that.
Okay.
I could have told you that
So
myself.
how many?
I want you to pick 5 women and 5 men. Now, it doesn't have to necessarily be from the W. It could be from the scene in Scotland. I don't know.
Okay.
You know the scene over there, up there. Shall I say from me? To cross over to the NWA. So you got to think of like who would be a good fit character-wise, who'd be a good fit wrestler-wise, and where So go right ahead,
Molly
Fee. You're
Spartan.
First. Who?
Molly Spartan.
Yeah.
Yeah, without a shadow of a doubt, Molly
Yeah.
Spartan.
Yeah.
I think she'd be a great fit.
Mhm.
Okay, so that's one. Um,
9 to go.
Bloody hell, have you got all night?
No, because I've got
Um,
a TNA interview coming up as well.
Rio?
Yes, yeah, yes, Rio should be
Rio
amazing.
would be a good shout as well.
Yeah,
She's powerful, as is Molly.
yeah,
She's got a really good look about her. She's pretty ruthless. Could be heel, could be babyface. Molly, I would put in as a heel, 100%. But Rio could be heel, could be
yeah,
babyface. Um, who else? Crossovers. I'm actually trying to think of like the indie scene over here as opposed to WWE
yeah,
and
yeah,
things
yeah.
like that. Indie scene over here. Angel Hayes.
Okay, yeah, she's good. Like her.
Um, somebody like Sky Smithson.
Oh, she's good. She does a wrestling school right near me. Sky Smithson.
Somebody like Sky Smithson as well.
Ness.
Really, really hard hitting.
Hmm.
I think Sky could throw quite a few people around, quite a few of the guys around, never mind the girls as well,
Fair,
which could be really, really interesting.
fair.
And a fifth one, who am I thinking? I'm just trying to, I'm having a quick rattle around who. This is harder than I thought.
I'm right now. I'm just like, who could I pull out? Okay,
Yeah,
we're doing five, right?
Yep.
yeah,
And V's on 4 women,
I'm
that
on
is.
four. A fifth one. I was going to say somebody like Harley Hudson. Do you know what? Yeah, well, let's go with
Yeah,
Harley. Let's
yeah,
go with
fine.
Harley Hudson. I know she's with TNA now, but let's
Yeah,
go with Harley for that. And you want five guys?
yeah.
All right, Crowley, the spectacular twat.
Yeah, yes, the spectacular.
Like he's got the whole character and gimmick
Yeah,
thing that I think would fit really, really
yes,
well in with the NWA.
yes.
I know he's been there before, but I'm going to go with Will Cruz.
Ah, okay, yeah.
I know he's a really good friend of Tom's, and I know he's been out and wrestled there before. And my inside scoop is that he got really good feedback and they really liked him. I think he's actually out in the USA, or he has been out touring the USA
She
this
done a
past
tryout
weekend or so. So Will
for
Cruz,
yeah, done WWE try as well recently.
yeah. Okay. If I'm taking Molly, I'm gonna take
Good.
Wolfgang.
Yeah.
Keep the two of them together.
Hmm.
Keep them
Fine.
both happy. So we'll take Wolfgang as well.
Yep.
And then another two from there. So there's a local guy up here who's really starting to make a name for himself that I've watched kind of grow over the last couple of years, and he's starting to get on the bigger cards for
Hmm.
PBW and things like that. And that is a young man that goes by the ring name of Ahmed Hamdi, the Iranian
Okay.
barbarian. Um, he's he seems to just get it as far as I'm concerned. And he's a young lad, he's maybe only 24. But I've been watching him come through the ranks and he's really starting to stand out and really starting to shine. So somebody like that who's much newer in the business, I think to bring in the NWA could learn so much from Aaron, from Trevor, from Tim, from all this wealth of knowledge that there. So I would put Ahmed in there. And then the last one. Just because I love him so much and I've always been a fan of him, I'll say BT Gun.
Okay. Fine. There's yours.
There you go. It didn't take that long, did
Uh,
it?
no, I've aged a couple of years, but we're fine.
Shut up.
Chase, I'm going to go last. I'm going to go next because I want you to have the last say as you're the guest.
You got it.
So I'm going to go man like Dries because I think
Oh yeah.
he would bring something to the NWA. I really like that. Now,
He's good.
someone quite relatively new on the scene over here. He's very young. He's actually just come back from a serious injury, but I would love to see him go in there from an in-ring perspective, not a character perspective, because you can't beat Alex Misery, the character. We know that. But I'd love to see him go in there and wrestle Alex Misery, and that's Leon Cage. I think he would be a tremendous. He's only about 18, 19 years old, but he has got a lot of talent about him. So Leon Cage would be my second one. I'm going to go down to TNA and I'm going to nick Steve Macklin over from
That's a good
TNA.
pick.
Yeah, I really like Steve Macklin. I think he's got a great, well, everything about him is great. He's hard hitting. You could see him in there with a Silas Mason just kicking seven bells out of each other, which is what I would really like to see. So Macklin's going to be there. I'm going to say someone who you've already mentioned, Will Cruz. I'm going to have to put him on there because I can't not, because what that guy can do in that ring for somebody. You were saying about Kratos moving around the ring. I mean, Will Cruz is near 400 pounds. He's doing Spanish flies off the top rope and stuff like that. So
You need to
yeah,
check him out. If you don't know who he is,
yeah,
go and have a look. Will Cruz, Kroos.
yeah,
Phenomenal.
yeah. He is one hell of a talent. So I'd have to put him in there for that very
Just wrote it
reason.
down.
Yeah, put him. Definitely watch that. Definitely watch him. Watch out for him anyway, because he's going to be a huge star. He'll get signed up. I'm surprised he already hasn't been, to be quite honest. But the last one, I'm actually going to go back to TNA. No, I'm not. I'm not going to go back to TNA. I'm going to go WWE. I want to see Slade versus Chad Gable
Oh,
in NWA. That's what I'm going to go.
Okay.
He could be El Grande Americano, whatever. I just want to see him and Slade in
that
there.
would be like Grap City right there. A lot of
Yeah.
grappling in that one. That would be amazing.
Exactly that. So I'm going to do my five women. I've got to put my champion in there because the Hitting the Turnbuckle does have a championship on the scene, and our champion is Aluna. So she has to go in there just because I'm biased and she's my champion. So I want that to be defended on NWA television. There's a lady by the name of LA Taylor over here in the UK. She's Sky Smithson's tag team partner. Close, LAT. She is 6 foot tall. She's got a great look about her. And she lives near my parents down in Cornwall. So there's another reason. But she would be in there. You've nicked Harley Hudson, so I'm going to take her off the list because you nicked Harley. So I'm going to leave her.
Sorry.
Another one from the UK that definitely I know that she made an impression at WWE tryouts because she won the award at the end of the tryouts. That was Rain Leverkusen. She's another one that's just come back off serious injury, and I think she would be a great asset. And there's a lady over near Yuffie that's got an incredible look about her that I could see her in the NWA. Is it Kira, whatever her name is?
Hera.
Yeah, yeah. She's built. She's got a great look. I'd love to
She's
see
a
her.
bodybuilder. She definitely
Yeah.
looks the part.
She looks the part for sure. And then lastly, I'm going to go back to WWE. I know she has appeared on NWA, but we never saw it. That's Natalia. I would want her in the NWA full time to go and get the roster there. But it's only fitting, Jason, that you get the final part of the show. So go ahead. Who is your five each?
Bunch of lackluster names for me, I'll tell you that much. No, so one of my fever dreams is that because of the Roku deal, is that we could see potentially some WoW talent crossover into the NWA and
Mhm.
vice versa. And we've already kind of seen that because, Hollywood Haley J has been
Yeah.
a regular for um, WoW, and she's been appearing, and so has Valentina Rossi, the
Mhm.
tag team champion with Tiffany Nieves. So I'm going to start picking from some of the WoW roster talent.
Okay.
Um, and honest to God, my one of my best friends in the business. She go on the Indies, she's Ruby Reyes, but on WoW, she's La Reina del Rey.
Mhm.
Hmm.
She is big. She is strong. She's had matches in the past with Big Mama. Um, I feel like in addition to her on the roster, she could fill in a lot of the gaps that I feel like the NWA is missing when it comes to women's wrestling. Um, and in some regards, kind of fills a similar role to what Max the Impaler did in that women's division.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Um, and speaking of Maxi Impaler, their former tag team partner, who also has in the past teamed with Rays, is Heidi Howitzer. Um,
Okay.
I can't remember her name when she was in WoW, but she used to be in WoW. She is wild, and they would need to have the censor button ready for her in the NWA. But she has a very interesting look. Kind of think of Tank Girl from that movie, and she used to team with Max the Impaler as the Warriors of the Wasteland. So kind of fits in that same aesthetic.
I think
Great
I know who
wrestler,
you're talking about. I've got a vision of who I think that is. Yeah.
great wrestler, great promo. Like I think she's money, and I can't believe that she isn't on national TV every week. Then I'm gonna go because I think what the NWA truly needs in its women division is more tag team.
Yes.
I'm gonna go the what do they call themselves? The I guess they might have been the Hollywood Blondes, but they were the female version, and
Yeah.
it was Ray Lynn
Hmm.
and oh, I forgot her partner's name, Heather Monroe. Ray
Yeah.
Lynn and Monroe. They had did a little bit of work for the United Wrestling Network. Um, Ray Lynn is great. She's worked for WoW in the past. Heather Monroe, I don't know what she's doing these days, but together as a team, they were really, really good. So that's four. And then for the fifth one, um, I'll go Alex Gracia just because I saw her wrestle just the other night. She is a little spitfire. She's very comparable to Kylie Page in the NWA, in terms of in ring and like just a real like firecracker, just for someone so small packs a big punch.
Yeah.
So I think that's my five.
Okay.
Then for the men, um, gosh, there's so many good guys. The first name I'm gonna throw out there is Ben Bishop.
Yeah.
He is kind of like a big name on the independents out
Yeah.
here right now. A lot of people are talking about him. And I feel like he certainly would fill a void that the NWA could benefit from. I'm also going to go Richard Holiday,
Yeah.
Oh,
although
nice.
he's been an Exodus Pro.
Mhm.
Yeah.
He hasn't really had a power spot yet. I think he would be a good addition. And then I'm going to go into my own backyard and I'm going to pull out Bad Dude Tito and Che Cabrera as a tag team. They are the Wolf Zaddies. I feel like they would instantly be a great addition to the tag team. I feel like they would have some banger matches with the Immortals, and so that's four. Gosh, and then like I guess the fifth one, Shane Haste, all the way from Australia,
Yes.
currently lives in the United States. He to me is the personification of what I would like to be if I was a pro wrestler. He has a great look. He is amazing in the ring. He can do everything. Like he could be your heel, he could be a babyface, he could be serious, he could be a goofball, and he can and his abilities in the ring, I feel like are unmatched. He is definitely a guy that I would bring in, and we could literally, I could list you another 20 names if you wanted to, but that'll be my choice. And the good thing about him is you could pair him with the Wolf Zaddies as they have teamed together as a trios in SoCal quite a bit. They could even be a faction that would go against maybe the Southern
Southern
Six.
Six.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I
Wow.
do think the NWA, instead of a singles title, they should have had a trios title.
Yeah, there we go. Well, that's a good way to end. Great way to end. So make sure you check out the Alliance blog on everywhere on social media. Make sure you check out that. Check out Hitting the Turnbuckle podcast. Me and Fee will be getting our passports soon because we'll be going to Slimeball City in a few weeks. I've got a feeling that's going to be fun. We're still recovering from the Alex Misery show that we had recently. That was an interesting one. Obviously, you'll see our interview with Kratos. You'll also see my interview with TNA Zaya Brookside coming up very, very soon ahead of TNA Turning Point. So make sure you check out the Alliance blog. Fee, we'll be back next week for more power with any luck. But for Jason, for Fee, and from me, Adam Cousins, until next time, everybody, buckle down, stay safe, and goodbye.